Alright, here is the video review for Transformers Legacy Voyager Prime Universe Bulkhead. And it does specifically ID him as Prime Universe Bulkhead on the packaging. Much like the RC is based on the Prime RC. And it even says right here, Prime Universe Bulkhead. Right here on the packaging, which is... normally I don't bring in the packaging that often anymore, but the new Legacy packaging is bangers. I mean, like... it's just really cool. The blasters, I want to get an extra blaster just to keep in the box because the packaging's so cool. But some cool character art there on the side. Stuff on the front. And then you see there's the Prime RC that we've got. Blaster, Bulkhead, Core Class Hot Rod, Optimus Prime up here. And then the shot of the character there on the back. I don't know if I saw Optimus Prime on the side of the box. QR code for the tech spec. If you want that. But a nice packaging all around. It does have a real kind of neon 80s design to it, which I kind of dig. Also, the instruction manuals are now this blueberry, white and blueberry, smooshed shades of blue and purpley, but they get the job done. And for the most part, they're fairly clear. There's a few places where I wasn't sure on things, but hey. Nothing that I couldn't figure out. Mostly right at the very, very end. But when you have to snap the cab and all this together, I was like, wait a minute, did I miss a step? And because it just kind of says, you get to the end, and it's just kind of like, and then it all goes together, and you're like, because it doesn't say anything about how these tab into the front. It's just kind of missing, but it's easy enough to figure out once you have it in hand. And he is cool. He's a cool little rolly military truck. I really love his alt mode. Boxy. It does lead to a boxy torso in robot mode. It would have been cool if they could have mitigated that, although I will say it's another one of those figures that when you have him in your hand, it doesn't... pictures make the angularness really kind of pop in a way that it doesn't really come across in hand. There are absolutely certain angles in hand where he doesn't look ideal. He looks very squarish, but for the most part, he actually looks pretty cool in hand in robot mode. So yeah, so you got the canopy here, cab, and underneath the canopy, it tabs in on the sides here. You can kind of lift up the sides. You can see his Energon gun and his wrecking ball store inside the vehicle mode. And the Transformer will go ahead and start by just lifting that up and then kind of lift this up a little bit. Do be careful because people have, I haven't had any issues yet, fingers crossed. People have reported that this hinge that attaches this has cracked and broken. Some of it may just be... you got to be really careful if you're transforming it with this attached. You can just pop it off here if you're concerned about that. I'm going to do it with the canopy attached because that's how... actually, that's not how the instructions go from robot to vehicle mode. Anyway, but yeah, I'm just going to leave it there because it's easier and then we'll pull it off later. But yeah, so there's that, and then these lift that up, and then these little gas tanks kind of are tabbed into the back here, and once you've got those untabbed, you can pull this hole. There's a couple little tabs here. They don't really friction tab, they just kind of fit in those holes. But pull all that out for the waist. Keep this out of the way. These wheels right here you can fold in. And I'm not entirely sure what these are doing here, if I'm honest, because they're wheels. I don't know if the real vehicle has some spare wheels stored back here that it's based on, because all these do is fold in and sit behind his head as detail, and despite the fact that you still see his arm wheels, you still see both the wheels on his legs, so he's just got this extra pair of wheels hanging out. They don't spin or anything, they just sit on his back. So maybe that's a pre-tool for some, maybe that's there just because of how they're going to reuse this mold in the future, and that could be the case. Anyway, go ahead and remove the wrecking ball. It just pegs on here, and the gun just pegs on here. And I do like the fact that where both of these peg on, the peg is formed by two halves of the legs, so it makes like, well, this actually snaps together pretty decently in robot mode without these weapons, but I like the fact that the weapons add extra stability to those pegs in vehicle mode to hold it all together. Haven't had any issues with it falling apart without the weapons in there, but a nice little touch. Anyway, so pop these apart, untab these gas tanks are tabbed into the leg up here. So unpeg those and straighten the legs out, and then you can open up, flip the foot down a little bit. Actually, leave that pegged on and open the foot like that. See, the feet are pegged on, and honestly, move the outer foot first, because if you unpeg the whole thing and leave it folded up, it's very hard to get under there and pop the heel out. So make sure you move this first, so at least you have some room between the toe and the heel, so you don't have to wrestle with that later. Anyway, then you can open up the panel. This piece you can see is on a ball joint, so you rotate this down, rotate it into the leg, and then close the leg up. I thought that was a pretty clever little. Plus, you can maybe, if you want to hide some change, you can get like a couple of dimes or pennies in there if you're just trying to hide, your snack money. Anyway, straighten up the legs like that, and there you go. Up here, come up here, lift the cab up off the hands here. And going back to vehicle mode, you really got to make sure that those snap up into there, so this is sitting level with the wheel. Otherwise, the whole thing, like it wants to stop naturally about right here, and you really got to make sure that clicks into place, or it won't line up properly in vehicle mode. But anyway, pop the cab up here, and bring his arms down, and straighten them out, like that. And then this little black panel here, you want to lift this up so it pushes past his head, and just folds into the chest like that. Then you can pop the head up into place like that. Untab, let me lift this up a little bit here. Then untab these arms from each other here. It takes a little bit of wiggling, and also it is possible these just kind of friction pop into the arm, so make sure you're grabbing at the green part, because it really is easy to pop one of these wheels off. They snap right back into place, but just FYI. And then these, lift this up. You got to make sure to get these wheels out of the way first. So lift those up. And you want to make sure this comes up as you, make sure both of these come up as you fold this down, because you got to get that, actually lift this up. Make sure these come all the way up and angle the arms out. Because until you can see there's a cutout here, you need to make sure that comes all the way up to match that cutout, or the cab will not sit properly back down for robot mode. But rotate those up, and once those are up, you can take the shoulder panels and peg them into the cab on each side. And then this gray piece here at the waist flips and snaps back into place like that. This black piece flips forward. It's on a tight hinge, and then snaps. There's a couple tabs under there, but snaps into place like that. At which point you can bring the cab. Actually, leave these untabbed for a second here. You can lift the cab up, and then there's a couple tabs that go into this transparent blue piece here, and then you can snap the arms in like that. And then the wheels kind of push up into this gap as you fold this canopy piece down, and then tab it in. Like I said, don't force it. You kind of, there's a halfway point here on the canopy that lets this push up, and you want to leave the canopy up a little bit as you bring these into place, because it will automatically kind of push this up a little bit. And I think that's what's stressing this piece right here and causing it to crack. Because if you're just trying to force these up and have this, like if this is down like this and this tries to force up through there, I think that's what's stressing these pieces here. So just be careful when you do it. Push that up, and you can see there's a little tab here on the black piece that's going to go right into this slot on the back of the wheel piece. Tab that into his back like that. And there is Bulkhead in robot mode. You can kind of fold these panels around his back. If you don't like them so much, you can fold them straight out the back, which is making him longer this way, but kind of giving him a cleaner silhouette from the front. Entirely up to you. Also, this does come off, and we'll show that in a minute. But there he is in robot mode. He's got a ball-jointed head, although limited mobility due to the shape of it, but he can look around. He's got dual hinge shoulders, a bicep swivel, hinge elbow. He's got wrist swivel. He's got a waist swivel, dual hinge hips with a swivel right there. Just past 90-degree knee, and he's got ankle tilt and toe and heel articulation. So got some good stability there in his feet as well. And like I said, he is squarish, but he doesn't, like, from dead on the front, he looks super square, but not horrible. But if you get into like some upper angles and stuff, he starts to look not as bulky. Now, from certain angles, he does have a big old bulky square torso, and that just is the design of it. But I think he looks better in hand than I was worried he was going to look based on some of the earlier pictures. And he's very clearly Bulkhead. He does come with this, like I said, this Energon weapon and the Wrecking Ball weapon. Now, the energy weapon has a couple pegs here on the side, and they say there's a couple holes here. You can plug it into either side of his head. And it doesn't stay super tight, but, I mean, you just kind of rests there on his shoulder, and he's got kind of a shoulder cannon. But, it doesn't pop loose very easily either. But once you go to pull it off, it comes right out. So you give him a shoulder cannon, and either hand you open up. Well, that's the first time I've done that, but that's just a friction fit here. Open this up. There's a peg right there. It can go over. I think it can go over either hand. Maybe does it only fit on this hand? Huh. I guess you could plug it in to the underside of this hand if you wanted. So yeah, you can put it on either hand. It's just, but if the peg is actually offset. I didn't realize that earlier because I only tried it on as one hand. So yeah, the peg is offset in the center there. You can put that over his hand, then close that clamshell up, and then he's got a wrecking ball hand. What he's known for. And that can also still swivel on the wrist. You can also, like I said, there's a... Again, be careful wiggling it because I've heard of that, the fragileness of these hinges, and you don't want to stress them too much, but there's a little peg right here that goes in this peg hole. You can actually, the instructions actually have you peg it in, want you to peg this in like this in the peg hole with the window showing behind his head, and that just seems silly. But you can do that. But you can also fold this peg in and attach it to his arm like a riot shield. Because it kind of has that riot shield detailing. And you can even have it flat open like that, or you can wrap it around his hand like the canopy if you want him to be super protective or whatever. It seems a little silly to have him just wearing the canopy on his shoulder. But there, now he's got a riot shield. You can also, you can take this gun and you can plug it into the wrecking ball. You can also take this, the instructions even show you can take this and attach it to the front of the wrecking ball. So now he's gonna slam through you with his riot shield, and then he can hold his gun as a regular gun as well, although it does seem a little small for him. So yeah, he's cool and neat. He's the only one. I'd like to get a drag strip. I do have a drag strip pre-ordered, so I'm not concerned about getting one eventually. But the only, like, when I went to Target, the only new Legacy figures I saw were one Bulkhead, which I bought, and one Deluxe RC, which I did not. So they're hitting stores. I know my friend found some Deluxes at this store several weeks ago, so that may be why there's only one RC. But anyway, there is Legacy Bulkhead. And real quick before we go, because he is Prime Universe Bulkhead, I didn't get all my Bulkheads out. I could have grabbed all my animated ones and all my little animated ones, but I do have, I did get out my first edition Bulkhead and my Beast Hunters Bulkhead, just for fun. They were the easiest to find. Saw them real quick, grabbed. Actually, first edition Bulkhead was already on the shelf when I went out to the storage unit. I found Beast Hunters Bulkhead very easily. But yeah, so there he is with a couple of other versions of his Prime Universe self, even though we never really saw the Beast Hunters version on screen. He was just a toy. But yeah, there's Legacy Bulkhead. He's cool. He has a couple of like issue points. Like I said, be careful with these hinges up here when you're stressing them and transforming him. Also, I've seen some reports that there's some stress marks or maybe even some cracks forming on this piece right here, but it's been okay on mine so far. So, like right there, it looks like maybe there's a stress, but that's actually just the way the light's hitting the grooves in this piece. It's not actually a crack yet. I've looked at that a couple of times thinking, oh God, okay, no, we're fine. But even then, he's pegging in just fine, so I'm not super concerned about it unless I start to see some breakage. But there's Legacy Voyager Bulkhead. Very cool. Looking forward, like I said, I'm looking forward to Drag Strip. I really would love to see some pictures of what their Menasor is going to look like. People have been finding the leaders. They've been finding Galvatron and Laser Optimus Prime. Do I want Laser Optimus Prime? I'm debating it. His arms look a little weird, but people are saying he's fun in hand, so we'll see. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope everything is well with all of you out there in YouTube land and the real world. Doing what you're doing, keep it up, and stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon.